The two big talking points with the weather this summer so far has been how hot it's been at times and how dry it's been for many places as well. A bit of a change is on the cards through the next 10 days with regards to both of those. One I'm a bit more confident about than the other. So let's start off looking at the temperatures. Here is the picture that we have for this Thursday. Yes, there's some hefty showery rain across parts of Scotland, particularly towards the north and west. Also some showers for western parts of Northern Ireland, but most areas, especially across England and Wales, having a dry day and lots of sunshine on offer. We're also dragging in our air from the south, and so you are probably aware, but we do have an amber extreme heat warning out across central and eastern parts of England for this Thursday. That's because temperatures here could reach highs of around 36, 37, possibly 38 Celsius. Now, when you get these sort of high temperatures, well, that's when we could see impacts to our infrastructure, our railway lines, our roads. They're not designed for this sort of heat, and more people are likely to be impacted by how hot it is with regards to their health. Now, when we're looking at temperatures of 37, 38 Celsius, well, it could be the hottest day of the year so far if we get above 38. And if we get above 38.5, well, it could be the hottest August day on record, but that's actually pretty unlikely. Fortunately, humidity across parts of central eastern England, not as high as it has been through some recent heat waves, so perhaps not feeling as oppressive as some of the heat earlier on in the summer, but nonetheless it is still going to be very hot. And further north and west, whilst temperatures will be a bit lower, actually a bit lower than through today for some places, it is actually a bit more humid for some places here, and still very warm, if not hot, with temperatures widely in the mid to high 20s, if not low 30s, even away from that heat warning area. Now, the hot air that's across us currently, that is going to clear away. There's a frontal system towards the west. That's actually going to decay as it comes across us, not bring a huge amount of rain. I'll touch on rain in a second, but it does bring that fresher air in from the west. Now, southeastern parts will cling on to that hot air through Friday, but I'm not expecting temperatures here to be as high as on Thursday. Nonetheless, still hot with low to possibly mid-30s perhaps. Elsewhere, we're seeing that fresher air coming in, and that fresher air will be more widespread by the weekend when temperatures will be, well, much, much closer to average. If we look at temperatures, let's take London, for example. Here's our ECMWF graph showing what we're expecting through the next week or so. And you can see, yes, we have this peak in the heat as we go through Wednesday, Thursday, with temperatures getting to the mid, possibly high 30s. Friday, still a hot day, and then we see that marked drop down between Friday and Saturday. Now, further north and west, that drop down will happen a bit earlier, but between Friday and Saturday, that's when we're really going to see the end of the exceptional heat for the time being. Thereafter, through the weekend and through next week, well, actually temperatures, if anything, look like they'll dip a little bit. There's obviously quite a wide spread when you're looking more than a week ahead. But there aren't really many signs that we're going to see the return of anything exceptionally hot for a little while yet, at least. Yeah, so if anything, really, temperatures are set to stay around average. Some places a little bit below, some places a little bit above, but only a little bit above average compared to what we've had through so much of this summer. Well, that's, if anything, going to feel a bit fresh for some of us. And then let's get on to the rain. I'm less confident about the change to something a bit wetter compared to how confident I am about the change to something a bit fresher. The fresher theme looks pretty certain. The wetter weather, well, that's a little bit trickier to pinpoint. So Friday, I mentioned there's a front coming through that's going to bring some showery outbreaks of rain, perhaps, but further showers coming in from the northwest through this weekend. Can't rule out some showers in the southeast on Saturday, but a bit of uncertainty about that. But showers could come in from Saturday. Sunday now actually looks like a largely dry day. It didn't earlier on in the week. Earlier on in the week, we were likely to see a weather system coming in. This feature here, that's now been delayed compared to a few days ago. So actually now, for many of us, Sunday, another largely dry day. Fresher, like I've shown you, but still often fine and sunny. But we want to draw the attention to this feature, as I highlighted. there's been some model discrepancies, some flip-flopping between the models as to how this is going to develop, how this is going to push in. So let's see what's actually happening. Now we have the jet stream, and that's running across the Atlantic, more across the UK really, through this weekend and into next week compared to what we've seen through much of this summer really. But it's how this low pressure system develops and interacts with the jet stream, which plays a pivotal role with how impactful it is going to be weather-wise for the UK. Now, there were signs that it would really be invigorated majorly by the jet stream, would develop quite intensely, and we'd end up with a fairly tight low pressure system quite close to the UK by Sunday, by Monday perhaps. But if we look at the most recent model setup, and it sticks on the colder, the northern side of the jet, but it doesn't really get to that left exit region, and so it doesn't intensify as rapidly as some earlier models really wanted to, and then it takes it up a bit further north. Nonetheless, there will be, or there is likely to be, some wet weather associated with it that will sweep its way southeastwards across the country through the start of next week. Some uncertainty about the timing of this. Some models, EC for example, is a bit slower bringing this wet weather in, so it might be later Monday, more into Tuesday. This is our Met Office global model, our current one that I'm showing you here. But just to reiterate, there has been some discrepancy between recent model runs about how much rain we see and how quickly it pushes through. Also worth highlighting, there could be some heavier bursts in it. There could be some relatively big convection along the front as it comes across, and so do watch out for that. But even if this comes through, even if this rain, which we have highlighted in recent weeks, we've highlighted some rain coming through, and then it's never really amounted to much, so I definitely can't guarantee that this will occur. But even if it does, well, it looks like it could rattle through quite quickly. Even any heavier bursts, well, they should be relatively short-lived in any individual place. So this type of rain, it's not going to be enough to help really alleviate the drought conditions across many parts of the UK. We need some really significant, persistent rain, and this looks like, whilst it could be a bit persistent at times, it will just move through, and if anything, a lot of that rain will just run off the especially dry ground and won't be able to be absorbed, which is what we really need. Looking further ahead through next week, so yes, could get off to a bit of an unsettled start, a wetter start than what we've had through much of this summer. And then what happens? Well, I've got two ECMWF members here, the control and then member 2, because they paint a slightly different picture for what could happen as we go through next week. If we look at both of them, start off with a similar idea, there's high pressure to the southwest of the UK, but how that high pressure builds varies between the two. So Member 2 has that high pressure building in quite quickly before another area of low pressure pushes its way in, and a relatively deep area of low pressure could bring some more changeable, unsettled weather, some wetter, windier weather perhaps, towards the northwest of the UK in particular. And then as any fronts come across, you would expect a fair amount of rain at times. However, the control model, it hints that there could be some showery rain coming and going perhaps, but it sticks with generally high pressure dominating mainly towards the west of us. I mean, if we have that westerly, then we'd be dragging in our air from the north, so it won't be especially warm or hot for the time of year, but it doesn't look like it will be as wet as this member here. And well, I looked at a number of the members, I just picked 2 here, but they're fairly, well, there's a lot of variety. It's quite a messy setup with what's going to happen next week. So when we see a messy setup, it's a bit different to what we've had through much of the summer. Often at this summer, yes, there have been hints of rain, that's not really happened, but a lot of the models have been in agreement that we'll have this high pressure, we'll have a lot of dry weather. And that's a bit of a change now for what we're expecting through next week. And I've got our meteograms from ECMWF. I just picked Leeds as somewhere relatively central in the country because this meteogram looks a bit different to what we've seen through much of this summer, really. I mean, I've already highlighted temperatures, but you can see, yes, it's hot through Thursday, but through Friday and into the weekend, temperatures drop down, and then they're much nearer average for the time of year. I didn't mention it, but some places will have tropical nights through the next few nights. We see that chance disappearing through the weekend because it will be markedly fresher both by day and by night. But let's look at cloud amount. Instead of it being largely sunny, as it will be for the next couple of days, it's, it's not necessarily totally cloudy, not totally overcast, but there will perhaps be a bit more cloud around than we've seen through much of this summer. And then importantly, let's look at that rainfall amount. Not a huge amount of rain to come through this weekend, but Monday, Tuesday, yes, a wetter spell looks relatively likely. Worth noting, these rainfall totals aren't especially high, but if we compare it to what we've had through recent weeks, well, it's a fair chunk more. And then thereafter, there's a large spread. So I definitely can't guarantee that there will be a significant amount of rain. It doesn't really look likely that there will be a huge amount of rain, enough to really help with the ongoing issues with how dry it has been. But there are at least signs that there will be some rain at times. It could be quite showery in nature. It could be a bit more persistent depending on how any low pressure systems come off. But at least there are some relatively promising signs that it's not going to be just as dry as it has been across many parts of the UK. So I'm more confident about things turning fresher by the weekend and staying with temperatures around average for the time of year through the rest of the 10-day period. Rainfall amounts, well, probably wetter than it has been, but probably not wet enough to help for many people. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.